What is Shud? The term Shud originates from the Buddhist concept of practicing the way, but it later evolved to refer to romantic and sexual relationships between older men, typically masters or lords, and younger men, disciples or retainers. Among the Japanese samurai class, such relationships were not taboo. On the contrary, they were seen as symbols of bravery, nobility, loyalty, and aesthetic refinement. During the Kamakura to Edo periods, Shud was widely accepted within samurai culture, especially within the context of Bushido, the samurai code that emphasized loyalty, honor, and sacrifice. Romantic relationships between men were seen as a means of strengthening hierarchical bonds and cultivating mutual loyalty through mentorship and devotion. Key characteristics include: the relationship was based on loyalty and mentorship. Rather than purely physical desire, the older partner would typically instruct the younger in martial arts, ethics, and social etiquette. Once the youth reached adulthood, the romantic aspect of the relationship would usually end, transitioning into a bond of camaraderie. Mori Ranaru, Mori Naritoshi, was a close attendant of Oda Nobunaga. Serving the Oda clan from a young age, he was intelligent, graceful, and famously beautiful, often praised as a peerless youth. Nobunaga adored him deeply, rarely letting him leave his side, whether in military affairs or private moments. Nobunaga personally arranged Ranmaru's living quarters, gifted him fine swords and lavish clothing, and even made exceptions by allowing him to share his war tent. Nobunaga's fondness made Ranmaru stand out among his retainers as someone special. In return, Ranmaru was utterly loyal, never complaining, and held Nobunaga in deep respect and affection. In 1582, during the incident at Honji, Akechi Mitsuhide betrayed Nobunaga and surrounded the temple. Ranmaru stayed with Nobunaga until the very end, guarding him with a longsword until they were engulfed by the flames. This tragic love in fire has since become a symbol of Shud's ideals of loyalty and romantic devotion. Yusugi Kenshin, a famed warlord of the Sengoku period, was revered as a tactical genius, earning the title God of War. He never married, devoting himself entirely to battle and the deep bonds he shared with his disciples. Kenshin maintained close relationships with several young retainers, especially Neo Nobitsuna and Usami Sadamitsu. His letters often contained expressions like, "I cannot part from you," and "I wish to be by your side always." His disciples, in turn, revered him as a god and were willing to risk their lives for him. Living a life of simplicity and avoiding women, Kenshin was considered a man who found solace only in warfare and male companionship. His love was not a blazing fire, but rather a steady, glacial stream, quiet, yet unwavering. Date Masamune, known as the One-Eyed Dragon of Sh, was a fierce and ambitious warlord with a complex personality, ruthless on the outside, yet soft-hearted within. He formed a close bond with Katakura Shijinaga, son of his loyal retainer, Katakura Kagetsuna, from an early age. Masamune personally mentored Shijinaga since childhood. They often marched and hunted together. Masamune gifted him prized horses and custom-forged weapons, and in letters referred to him as the treasure of my heart. One letter reads, "To see your face is to witness the warmth of spring. It soothes my soul." Even after Shijinaga came of age, Masamune continued to support and promote him politically. Shijinaga remained fiercely loyal, dedicating his life to the Date clan. Their bond transcended that of lord and vassal, more like comrades in arms and devoted lovers, relying on one another through life's battles. The term Chiggo referred to young boys, usually aged 7 to 17, who lived and served in Buddhist temples in medieval Japan. Some were orphans adopted by the temple, while others were sons of nobles sent to learn Buddhist rites and etiquette. These boys were often described as delicate and beautiful, dressed in ornate robes with elegant manners. Sometimes they wore makeup and tied their hair, appearing like living embodiments of the Bodhisattva canon. In temple culture, they became symbols of beauty that transcended gender, a dreamlike ideal. The emotional bonds between monks and Chiggo were known as Chiggo no Koi, or love of the temple boy. While this could be seen as a form of homosexual affection, it was often framed within the Buddhist context as a spiritual trial between desire and devotion. Such relationships were frequently depicted in literature, especially during the Heian, Kamakura, and Muromachi periods. Chiggo Monogatari, a poignant tale of a monk who falls in love with a temple boy who dies young. Heartbroken, the monk dedicates himself to austere spiritual practice. Kanjaku Monogatari, a collection of stories describing the emotional complexities between monks and Chiggo, often set in tranquil mountains or nighttime conversations. Essays like Surizaregisa also praise the idealized beauty of Chiggo, viewing them as embodiments of purity and grace. In art, this theme appeared in paintings and ukiyo-e, where monks and Chiggo are shown admiring flowers, chanting sutras, or gazing at the moon compositions filled with both serenity and sensual undertones. For some monks, love for a Chiggo was not indulgence, but a passionate pursuit of beauty, testing their spiritual discipline. These relationships embodied a tension between ascetic ideals and human emotion, both tender and melancholic. Though Buddhist rules forbade such intimacy, Chiggo no Koi was a real and sometimes institutionally accepted part of temple life. As Japan entered the Edo period, Buddhist reform and changing social norms pushed this practice into decline. Today, it remains a distant echo of the past, a poetic and controversial chapter in the history of male love in East Asia. During the Edo period, Shud male-male love was not only accepted but celebrated in both literature and visual art. The romantic and often passionate bonds between samurai and beautiful youths were seen as ideals of loyalty, beauty, and spiritual connection. One of the most iconic literary works is Saikaku Ihara's The Great Mirror of Male Love, Nanshoku Kagami, published in 1687. This book contains dozens of stories featuring samurai and handsome boys, portraying intense emotions, acts of bravery, and tragic devotion. In some tales, young boys are willing to die to protect or honor their lovers, reflecting how Shud was intertwined with the samurai code of loyalty and sacrifice. In the world of visual art, ukiyo-e prints often featured erotic or romantic scenes of male love. Renowned artists like Suzuki Hironobu, Tori Kiyonaga, and Kitagawa Utamaro depicted beautiful boys and gallant men together in intimate settings, tea houses, bedrooms, or natural landscapes. These artworks, while sensual, were also deeply aesthetic, celebrating the elegance of male youth and emotional intimacy. The influence of Shud extended to the kabuki theater as well. Since women were banned from performing, young male actors, especially those playing female roles, wakashu, became objects of desire. Audiences admired not only their performances, but also their physical beauty and personal charisma, blurring the lines between performance, gender, and attraction. Far from being taboo, male-male love in the Edo period was a vibrant and visible part of everyday culture, shaping concepts of love, honor, and beauty across literature, art, and theater.